Hi everyone. Okay, so this week my presentation is going to be on operant conditioning, and we can't really talk about operant conditioning without talking about B.F. Skinner. So his work was super influential in psychology, and like our lecturer said this week, he could be considered one of the most influential psychologists of all time. And this is largely due to his research and his ideas in operant conditioning. So we will be talking about him a lot with operant conditioning. So B.F. Skinner, his work was based on Thorndike's law effects. He was a radical behaviorist, and he believed that operant behavior operates on the environment as to produce consequences. So the things in the environment produce consequences inside of us. And he believed that those were emitted by organisms that were controlled by the consequences. So organisms as in human beings, animals. Those are the things that are emitted and then through the environment around us. So he was very different than Watson, and he believed in negative and positive reinforcement. So positive reinforcement strengthens a behavior. And the idea is that negative reinforcement will decrease that behavior. Skinner also believed in positive reinforcement and ignoring the behavior. If it was a negative behavior, if you wanted to decrease that behavior, then to ignore it, and that would be called extinction. So for example, a child that is having a negative behavior, something that you would not want them to do, if you ignore them and you don't give any reinforcement to that behavior, that behavior will stop and it will create an extinction of that behavior. Instead of punishment. That was his idea, instead of punishing. So he was very, very famous and has been known for what's known as Skinner's box. And this was also called the operant conditioning chamber. So essentially what that was, where he took pigeons and rats, and then he had them press a lever, and when they pressed the lever, they were rewarded with food. And so this taught the animal that if you press the lever, you get food, and when you do the thing that the scientists want you to do, you get rewarded for it. And so that would create them to do that more. And so with that, there are a couple different types of operants. So a neutral operant is a response from the environment that neither increases or decreases the probability of a repeated behavior. So neutral, it just makes no change. Next, there are reinforcers, and that increases the probability of a repeated behavior. So a reinforcer would be like the food. That would be a reinforcer that would increase the probability of that behavior. And the next is punishers, and those decrease the likelihood of a behavior. And there's lots of research in our textbook talking about punishment and whether that is beneficial for humans to punish them, and that really does decrease a certain behavior. Okay, so with this, then we kind of go into token economy. And so operant conditioning had a very big effect on the token economy. So token economy is essentially receiving a token, or think of it as like money. So I go to work, and my positive reinforcer is the money that my boss gives me, and then I take that to the grocery store and I give that to them, and they give me food. So it's a positive reinforcement for me to go to work, is because I get money, and that money means that I can buy food for my family. So the operant conditioning really influences the token economy. So my sources for this presentation today are going to be our textbook and also simplypsychology.org. Thanks so much, guys.